Okay, well, let's take two. I had a phone call to get, and I don't want to stitch these things together. So, what I'm talking about right now is delayed payment or non-payment on jobs. And so, there's a cost associated even with delayed payments on jobs, depending on how established your business is, depending on how much profit you've made, depending on where you are in the cycle of your fixed expenses. So, and the amount of money or the amount of number of jobs that are either unpaid yet or just non-paid. So, there's cost associated with running a business, regardless of what your material costs are, your fuel costs, or your labor costs. You've got rent, you've got insurance, you've got the office staff, you've got the phone systems. There's a lot of different costs associated with that. They go on and on and on regardless. You have the cost up front to do the jobs. You have to, whether it's a net 30 and you pay at the end of the month on a statement, or whether you buy it on credit, or whether you finance it yourself. The financing yourself, you're pulling from profits. The net 30, you're counting on getting paid in time to cover those costs. Borrowing money is expensive, and even right now, the prime interest rate's like 6.5%. Well, back when it was low, really low, the interest rate for small business was like 6% on up to 49%, depending on how established you are, what type of loan that you have to get. So even a delay in payment can be very expensive if you don't have profits available to pull from, or an emergency fund or anything like that. So if you have to borrow money to cover the cost of somebody who didn't pay in time, you hadn't figured for these things, or if you have enough of things accounted for, unexpected numbers for whatever reason that are delayed. And this could even be, it could even be failed inspections. It could be bad weather. It could be a lot of different things that will affect your ability to collect on a job. And so anytime that you get in a situation where you don't have the cost of your parts, whatever your expenses that are due before you get paid on a job, even if it's completed and it's billed out, you have to at some way account for that, either by non-payment on your part or by borrowing money to cover these expenses. And so this is where I'm getting into some of some of the issues that plumbing companies, whatever service type of companies, have to deal with. How do you account for that money? When is profit? When can you draw on your profit? How much money do you have to keep set aside? And whenever you have unexpected, economic conditions, these things that are, not forecasted even by the smartest people. We had the pandemic. Obviously, that's caused issues big time, particularly with small businesses. So this is some of the problems that we've had to deal with. And so there's a couple factors. In Oklahoma, we have the Homestead Act, and I think a lot of places do, and I think it's necessary, it's proper, and it's right, in that you shouldn't be able to just take somebody's home, because of any unsecured debt that they have. You shouldn't be able to interrupt their ability to live based on unsecured debt. Part of the reason why people moved to America was not only to be free, but it also was to be free of unfair, advantage, debtors' prisons, these sorts of things, indentured servitude, which they have that, they still do have it, but those are the things that most people consider to be immoral and unfair practices, and so in these situations, I totally understand these positions that are points of law. In a lot of situations, when you have, material cost, goods, labor, that are provided for in storefronts. You go to a convenience store, you go to a gas station, you go to, a mechanic's a little bit different because they can hold on to your car. You go to a restaurant, you go to a hair salon, you go to all these different places. You go and you receive these, you order and you receive these services and these products, and you either leave without paying, or you refuse to pay. It's theft. It doesn't matter how much the product costs. If it's a 10-cent, bubble gum, and you walk out of the store with it, or you try to walk out of the store with it, they can hold you. The storekeeper, at least in Oklahoma, can hold you until the police get there. I think they call it storekeeper's privilege or something. I can't remember what it is, but they're allowed to hold you there, and they can take you to jail over 5-cent stick of gum, whatever it is. Now, they can't make you pay this back because that's a civil matter at that point. You have to go through the courts to collect on that sort of stuff. But that's theft. Okay? Well, here's the deal. You're a contractor of any sort. Anybody who is providing labor and material on projects, on properties, that you don't occupy, you don't have ownership of, name on a lease, you don't have any kind of residency or an occupancy. At that point, it's a civil matter. It's not. If they don't pay you, it's not theft. You're willingly walking into a different property. You're willingly picking up this stuff. You're willingly installing this stuff. Okay? They're not walking away with anything. You're taking it to their property. That's not theft under the law. The costs associated with running a plumbing company. We have a shop that we have to maintain. We have vehicles. We have all those expenses that everybody else has, if not more. A mechanic, he has his tools. They can be quite expensive, and he has his rent and all that sort of stuff. He doesn't make house calls. A lot, some do, I'm sure, but they don't. Plumbing, painting, heating and air conditioning, electrical, drywall, all these places. Generally, maybe not drywall painters necessarily, but specifically the three, skilled trades that they call the three skilled trades: plumbing, mechanical, and electrical. Have a shop in most cases. They have all the vehicles. They have all the same expenses that a store does. They have to either maintain a supply of stock or material, or they have to purchase it before the job begins. All of this stuff costs the exact same thing as a store, but we can't come in and repossess it like a car. You go in and you buy a car on credit. They release it to you. That's not theft. That's not theft, but they have a lien on it. They can come repossess it. Now, a very, if you have that car and you don't pay it and they can repossess it legally, if you store it in your garage, they cannot break into your garage and take your car, despite that, the Homestead Act, regardless, you cannot damage someone else's property to repossess something you own, unless you somehow sign some sort of agreement on your lease that would allow them to force entry. I don't know. I don't know if they really can, if that's would be a legal contract or not. So, now this is some of the stuff that we have to account for. Now, we can go to small claims court and we can sue you. We can file a lien on your property. We can sue you and then file a judgment lien on your property. And then, we can also foreclose on that lien within a year. Now, these are all very tricky, very tricky. The small claims court and the lien is not very tricky. If you have all the right documentation, you can win. You can get a lien filed and all that sort of stuff. But even if you get a judgment in court, you got to be able to they got to be able to garnish their wages, or in the case of filing a lien, there has to be a third-party interest in that, and that it would be a sale, or it would be sometimes a mortgage company will start to freak out if you put in put a lien on somebody's property. They're not real happy about that. So, we do have those as a recourse. However, at best, there's a delay. At best, there's a delay. At best, it's going to be, a 30-day delay on payment. And in the case of small claims court, at least here in Oklahoma, there's a $10,000 cap. Okay, anything over that, you got to go to whatever court, federal court, whatever the fuck it is. And it's going to take a lawyer. Foreclosing on a lien takes a lawyer. And I'll tell you, I'll give you 3 instances just recently or over the time. 2 of them are non-payment and 1 of them is delay in payment. The one furthest apart was for we had a large hotel right before Thanksgiving. It was the week before the week of Thanksgiving. Call in, and one of the employees smelled a very large gas odor, and they called the gas company, and they came out, and the gas company determined that yes, there was a large gas odor, there was a large gas leak, so they shut down the gas to the entire hotel, leaving them without heat throughout the building. Hot water throughout the building. Obviously, the individual rooms did have heat provided because they have those heat pump or the window style, units that provide heat, but they have no hot water. They had no ability to wash their sheets. If they have a restaurant, there was a lot of stuff they just did not have the ability to do, and it was right before Thanksgiving. So we were contacted to provide for them service, to give them a job, to fix these leaks, and get the leaks fixed, prove the leaks are fixed, and they get their gas going. In our case, this particular case, it didn't require a city permit. The gas company just required that, at least I don't remember, I don't think it did require a city inspection, but the gas company required their own inspection. Which was, we didn't have to go through 2, but at the same time, the gas company went out there. Well, it was a huge place. And I'm really proud about the way we handled this thing. We had, 9 trucks out in the field, 10 guys, and we were able to get them restore gas to the hotel. We started on a Thursday, and we had gas restored to that hotel by 5 o'clock that Monday morning, which was the week of Thanksgiving. So Thursday would have been Thanksgiving. And so we were able to get them hot water. We had every last gas-fired appliance, mechanical equipment operating by that time. I had, I think, 6 or 7 of the trucks on that job at the time. There was, a lot of different places where leaks could be. One of the things you have to account for when somebody smells a leak, there may be several leaks in a building that you don't notice, either because of a lower gas pressure or because they're outsiding, they're just venting into the atmosphere. A lot of different situations like that. Well, either if you're testing for a permit, you're going to be using a pressure test regardless. You're going to have to use air tests. You're going to have to provide pressure because you can't test using gas because they've already killed the pressure. So in these situations, and in just throughout, the best practices way of finding leaks, and also requirements based on city inspections, you test at a higher pressure. So, most gas pressures about 5 inches of water column. We usually test at a minimum of 15 pounds. So sometimes you can bring out leaks that weren't necessarily noticed. And so we have to account for them and fix them. So we had several leaks, and it took several days to do it. We also had a leak that was below the ground. That was, that was between, a building that was connected by an annex. So there was no way to connect the gas between buildings up high. So they had to drop down outside and go around. There was many leaks, a lot of costs associated with that job. And in the end, it was I think it was about a $22,000 project. We had 2 different phases. One was the big one, was $17,000, which was getting everything going. It was based on cost per leaks that we fixed. They agreed to it above beforehand, and we charged them for the leaks that we repaired, and we got those taken care of, and we invoiced that out. The other one was for the gas service repair. We required cutting concrete, digging a trench from one place to the other, replacing the gas pipe, and moving forward. Big job just by itself. Not huge, big job just by itself though. So we did all of that. The total price for all the work we did was $22,000. So turned in the $17,000 one first, turned in the $5,000 one second. Obviously, we got paid for the $5,000 one. Is what we got paid for. And throughout the course of the next 3 months, we had to fight. I had to personally fight and act almost like a private investigator. There was just zero communication, zero payment. You're talking about $17,000 worth of payment. I had to beg, borrow, steal, track. I had to borrow money. I couldn't afford. We had costs associated with that job. A lot of costs associated with that job just in labor. So that's one. Finally got paid. That was a tremendous cost. Another one that we just never got paid for is we repaired, rerouted water line for a slab leak for a guy. It happened to be, a house that supposedly his kids were stayed in. It was a home that was paid for. It was rental property. So we did the job for him in good faith. The plumber did not have him sign contracts. So there was still a lot of evidence to prove that we were there. We had phone records and different things like that, and call recordings. It probably could have gone to court and proven it. I was a little naive, didn't quite understand all the ins and outs of it, and so I filed a lien, but we still haven't got paid. There's another plumbing company, the same thing. They got a judgment lien, or judgment. They still haven't got paid from this guy. I know where he lives. He has a gate around his front door. I can't even approach. I can't knock on his door because there's a wrought iron gate around that. I can go up to that point legally. I can't go any further, and he can trespass me at some point on his property. So there's not a whole lot I can do to him, and we're actually friends on Facebook. We're friends on Facebook, and I don't know. I mean, I've contacted him before, and it's just crickets. It's dead silence. So I'm just out that money. And that's one of many. And just recently, I had another customer. Just $250. But at a time that we're in financially, $250 is a lot. So what I'm saying to you and to other contractors and to customers, if you call Craigslist, you get an out-of-state contractor, you get Chuck in a truck, somebody that's not established, somebody that doesn't have a storefront, somebody that doesn't have a Google local business page, somebody who doesn't have referrals, you can't look for on the Construction Industries Board. Well, no, you probably don't. Well, you probably don't want to give them your business, okay? When you're giving them your business, it's very obvious that you're trying to get it either because you can't afford to or because you just don't want to pay the cost a lower rate, okay? You shouldn't pay those guys up front. It maybe, make sure you get, the material up front, only pay for the material or whatever, but when you're dealing with a business like Lakeshore Plumbing or any of these others where we have costs associated with these businesses, with these, with operating our business, you need to expect for us to ask for a deposit, to require a deposit, to require for prices paid at the time of service. Most of us don't require deposits. Most of us, do require, payment at the time of service. And what I say to the people who are running your businesses, I've done it. You just bill somebody out and, I say, hey, can you write me a check? Or, hey, can you, just pay this online with your credit card or whatever your options are. And when you do that and you walk away, you give up your opportunity to put pressure on somebody, if you let them, not be there whenever the job's done. And what I say to the contractors, and I say this to myself and to the homeowners, expect to be required a deposit. If you go out and you go buy a pool or go have a pool installed from some of these larger companies, they're going to make you pay. They're going to make you have a deposit. There's no difference between any company like us, and that's one of the things that, in a lot of ways, contractors have been conditioned to accept, not getting paid up front because that's what the news, are telling these little old ladies and people, and it's understandable. You go and give a shady contractor your money and he disappears. There's no way for you to hold them accountable. But the thing you need to understand is that a business owner like us, we are taking a much greater risk than you are. Much greater risk than you are. Now, one of the things I'm proposing and what I want and what I'm going to actually be, pushing for is a theft of service law. Florida has one. I don't know how many other states have one. It's a theft of service law. I'm not saying we should go and be able to put you in jail necessarily, but I believe, in my opinion, and I think to these other contractors, we should, if we have all of our paperwork signed and we have our contractors, we have a legitimate, proof that we provided the service and that the customers agreed to what we billed on, we should be able to call the police and have you issued a ticket. Or what I would prefer, even more so than just a ticket, make them required to go before a judge. Make you required to go before a judge and explain to this judge why you didn't pay this contractor. But we can't do that at this point. You guys have all the power in those situations. You have all the leverage in these situations. At best, we could maybe call in a permit and get an inspection. And if you were having other work out there being done, then, the city can require you to get other permits, and which could be, a hassle, and they could potentially make you tear out work. And that's, we could do something like that. Most companies wouldn't do that, going to move on. But when you have enough of these happen, and it's $2,000 here, $250 there, suing these people and filing liens, foreclosing on liens and all these different things, you're, $250, who's going to go file a lien on $250? But how many times are you not file a lien on $250? 10, 15, 20 times, that's $2,500, $5 grand. That's where we're at. The dude owes me $2,000. I have over $10,000, $12,000 more so than that, of just unpaid bills that we haven't been able to collect on, and it's affected our ability to make profits. And then you have these unforeseeable economic conditions that are issuing problems, and it's frustrating. And as a business owner, when you have people questioning it, and I get the questioning things, I'm being nervous, I think that's relatively understandable, but it still is frustrating. It still can be frustrating whenever there's this expectation that we're somehow not taking a risk. We have fixed expenses. Our costs are already up there. If we're there already, not getting paid on a job is expensive. Just having losses on jobs is expensive. This truck, this is very low. I got to get $750 a day just to break even off this truck in order to make money. And 25%, profit is a small amount, to cover the overall expenses of maintenance, and tool replacement and all the other costs associated with it. So this is just another one of these videos that these things are on my mind, and I like to make videos about it. And that's my opinion. This is my experiences, and I hope if somebody sees this, they understand it, and they don't. It's 26 minutes long. I hope that maybe you might end up watching the whole thing. Anyways, I hope you guys have a good day. I got to go to the bank and go file my taxes.